So now is a good time to start looking at extending UI control to include the publisher so that we can start working with the tab gesture, tab events for, let's say, a button. So we'll have to step a little back and see where that extension has to happen, and then that has to be on the UI control. So for that, let's add a new file on UI control as a combine extension, UI control plus combine. I'm just going to call it as UI control combine. So this is what you're going to extend. So obviously again you need UIKit, and we need to import combine as well. So this approach is simple, just that we will have to follow a specific approach in implementing so that it's common for each and everything which we might be including to make it combine compatible. So let's start with some protocol, something. This is just to keep at least let a consumer, if in this case it is UI control, know that it needs to conform to this combine compatible. So I'm just calling it compatible. So this is a simple protocol, no implementation as such, but it's just to a placeholder protocol, just to let a control or at least anything within UIKit to know that, or anything to know that you need to conform to combine compatible, so that it will work as per combine. So that's the idea behind it. So again, let's start. Let's start by extending UI control, and it is implementing combine compatible, just so that UI control knows that it is working as per combine. So that's the reason behind this extension. And other extension which we are going to create is on UI control itself, to make it conform to some things, so that it will work for our cases. So we are going to create a class. So this specific implementation is going to be the same for each and everything which we are going to do. Couple of things we will need. First thing is called as a subscription, and subscription needs some parameters. It's going to be a generic type, so we need to see, first thing which we need to pass is a subscriber type, which should adhere to a subscriber protocol which is available with combine. So the first part is this subscriber, which is, again, it has its own implementation internally, but whatever is supposed or at least suggested from the combined world is to implement starting with the subscription protocol, subscriber protocol. So we need to create something called as a subscription, which we need not extend anymore, so we can keep it final. And also the control on which we are going to implement it. So in this case, it's going to be UI control. That's what we are going to extend for combine. And this should implement combine.subscriber, combine.subscription. So that's what we created, a subscription. Implements combined subscription, and we also need to point to what is the input type, subscriber type dot it. So we see that the subscriber type is implementing something called as a subscriber, which is coming from the combined world. So what is the input? So for that we need to point to the corresponding input is going to be our control. In this case, control is nothing but our UI control. So even for button, it's going to work, because every view, anything within a UI kit starts with the UI control. So that is the core base implementation. That's the reason we are going to have extending the UI control, so that we don't need to do it for each and everything. And now let's implement some of the functions which are needed to be implemented. So these are two implementation. One is going to be a request, which we can keep as is, and then there is a cancel. So what needs to happen if the we need to cancel a subscription. Those are the two things we need to implement. So we need to have for the cancel, it's a subscriber getting cancelled. So let's create an init to accept some of the things. Let's say whoever is going to create a subscription has to pass some parameters for it to be subscribed. So first thing is pass the subscriber. Who's the subscriber who's going to subscribe to it? So I'm going to pass the subscriber type, and the next is the control, which is again going to be the control. And the third part is, in this case, at least for buttons, there is going to be an event. So I'm just going to call the on what event should the signals to be sent. So these are the three parameters which we are going to pass, and we need to create the corresponding variables for that. Private var subscriber, it's a first parameter. Second is the control, and let's instantiate these ones now. Self dot subscriber is going to be subscriber. Self dot control is going to be control, and the next part is self dot control. We need to add a target. Let's say this is more to do with the buttons. Let's say we normally do a target, which is going to be self. In this case, the target is going to be the UIControl itself. And selector, this is where we need to have we need to add a selector function. So hash selector is what we normally do, and then we need an objective C function. So we need to create that. Let's create a function, event handler. Nothing base, it's just a basic function, and just that it needs to be an objective C function, and we just need to point to that over here. So that should resolve it. And third part is for what. So we already have the event received, so that for this specific event. So for event, in the sense, it can be the touch up inside event or anything on which these things has to happen. So that is what it is. And this demand, we need not implement it, because by default it is unlimited demand. Let's say if you want the subscription to if the signal has to be only sent once, maybe you will keep the demand as maybe 1. So if you see demand subscribers subscribers dot demand comes with none, no signals, unlimited, then you can also set a value x maximum, how many times should the subscription happen. In this case, it's going to be unlimited, so we don't need an implementation over here. So we can just keep it as is with an empty implementation. And then on cancel, we have kept it as a nullable type, subscriber type, so we can always set it to nil, so that the subscription is lost. That's also done. So now one more bit is left, where we need to also call a subscriber.receive. This is another thing which we need to call on event handler, the function which we wrote here. So we just need to make it as receive subscriber, receive control, which is our, in this case, it's nothing but the control. So I can just pass the control itself. So this is what the basic implementation for subscription looks like. So this is going to be more or less the same for any kind of extension of, let's say, a control or anything. So let's say in this case it is UIControl, but I also need to extend the UIBarButtonItem. That is another extension I'll be doing, but then it's going to be more or less the same kind of approach, where it will have an event handler, cancel, and init, where it accepts the subscriber type, the control, and what action needs to happen, how to handle that action. So it's again going to call this receive. So this receive is within a subscriber. So internally combine is handling that. So this is the basic implementation for a control. Now we need to have the publisher created. So that's the next part. So we created the subscription part with the subscriber. Now the other practice which they are recommending is to create a struct publisher. I think this is basically to have it as stateless. Maybe I'm not sure why it's a struct, but then I can still go through these documentations why it's not a class and a struct. So here in this case, output is what. So whatever we are passing as an input over here should be output over here. So in this case, in our case, subscriber type input was a UI control. So publisher requires an output. So in this case, it should be a UI control itself. It should be the same control, and it needs to conform to the publisher type. Publisher, and that's going to trigger types. It does not conform to publisher, so it's asking to implement couple of type aliases which we need to now fill in. One is the output. We know that is going to be the output which we passed, and failure, in our case it's going to never fail, so I'm just going to keep it never. And again, some more implementations are pending. This is the critical part where it's going to have a receive function. This is where we instantiate our subscriber which we created in the last step, where we need to call the receive function. So even before that, we need to receive all the other init parameters through. So init, I'm gonna pass the control, which is going to be the output, and the next parameter is going to be the event, which again it's the same for in our case. What's the controls event, which is the output event. So again, we can create variables for that. Control output, let event UIControl.event. So it can again be, I think, output.event. Yeah, so self.control is equal to control, and self.output self.event is going to be event. So once we create a publisher, and once a value is received, it's going to receive this through this receive function, where it will send those signals to the subscriber. So this part takes care of creating a publisher, and this part takes care of receiving those values through the subscriber. So that's what we are going to do. As soon as something is received, it has to go through the subscription which we are going to create right now. So I'm going to do that. So it's already set some basic functionality already, like subscriber, who's the subscriber which needs to pass, and where S subscriber conforms to S. So we already know, we already have created a subscriber class over here which subscribes to subscriber. It never fails, and output is going to be the input of the subscriber, which in this case is this control, which again is conforming to UI control, if you see here. So this is how you create it. So receive function needs to have that subscription which we created, the instance of that subscription. So we are calling this subscription right now. Subscription instantiate using a subscriber, which anyway is the subscriber we are passing, like over here. And control is going to be the control, event is going to be the event. So these three. So control we are passing through the init event, and this is what event also we are passing, and this is what we need to return, this subscription. That's it. So okay, sorry, it's not returning anything, but the subscription has to so this subscriber has to, I think this is subscription, and where is ours? Okay, this subscriber is now what should receive. I think I did not make any mistake. Okay, so the subscriber needs to now receive internally. This is the base subscriber, or at least the subscriber that we are passing has to now receive the input as well as the control. So we have to pass the subscription over here, which is nothing but this object we created. So basically this works with three things. One is a publisher, one is a subscription, and third part is the subscriber. So subscription is nothing but whatever is subscribed to this specific publisher, so that it starts receiving those signals through the subscriber. So that's how the whole thing works. You have a publisher, you have a subscriber, and you have a subscription. So as soon as you implement this, this is what is enough. Now we might have to just extend our UI control and create some custom properties to set those required publishers for specific events, let's say. So in our case, we are interested in having the touch up inside event. So let's create a function extension and a function now. Extension for combine compatible, but in this case it's nothing but our where self combine compatible, it can be anything. So in this case we are only looking at UI control as the combine compatible. So this combine compatible can be implemented for anything which needs a combined implementation. So in this case we implemented this. Now we are again saying extending combine compatible, where our self, this combined compatible, is going to be a UI control extension. So that's what I'm doing here, and I'm going to create a function called publisher, and the publisher can have for what event. I am going to pass the UI control dot event. Specific event, I need to subscribe, create a publisher for a specific event. That's what I'm going to do right now. It does not need a return type. So publisher is going to be UI control is what our control is, and I'm going to create a publisher object right now. Publisher for UI control, and okay, that's not the one. So I'm going to create a publisher. That's the return type for this function. So I'm going to create a publisher for UI control, and I'm going to do, because it's a publisher, I can right away, the return type is a UI control publisher, I can right away create an init out of this one. Publisher control is self, and in event is event. So this will create that instance which we need. And another modification which might be I can do is using this init. It's nothing but that publisher itself, because it's within this the publisher is nothing but this itself. So I can maybe directly call init and it will create that instance for me. So these are the two ways you can do it. And one optimization which I'm going to do right now is to create a variable which is the tab. I'm looking at UI touchup inside, the touchup inside event. For that I'm going to create a tab publisher, and it's going to be of type any publisher passing. I am going to maybe send a void response, because I'm just listening. I'm only interested in listening to maybe a tab, and I'm not interested in receiving the whole UI control. So I'm just maybe calling it a void response, and it's never going to error out. And I'm going to say self.publisher. This again, I'm calling this function for what event. I'm going to say touch up inside, and that's my touch up inside, which is actually returning a UI control.publisher. So I'm going to map it again. Map and transform. Instead of the control, I'm just going to say underscore in a void response. Again, I like to maybe erase it to any kind of publisher. So this will create me a void. Every time a tap is happening, I'm going to receive void signals through the control. So that's what is going to happen. So I have already extended UI control over here. So this is the implementation. Basically, we are starting with creating a protocol to make sure that whatever is implementing it is conforming to the combined version. So that's the reason UIControl is implementing the combined compatible. Then I'm starting to extend my UIControl. So basically, if you want to conform to combine, then at least two things has to happen. One is you create a subscription, which is going to implement a subscription of combine, and we are going to use a subscriber, which is nothing but something which is going to subscribe to my subscription, and that subscriber needs to be something we need to pass to this instance as well as to this publisher. So we create that and also pass the control to which we need to maybe receive signals from. That's the reason in this case it is going to be UI kit, which we are extending and creating a combined element out of it. And what is the event? In this case, UIControl will have multiple events to handle. So in this case, I just passed the event as a parameter so that I can start creating multiple publishers for different kinds of events. And then I'm setting a target and then creating an event handler, which actually is nothing but receiving the subscribers receive function. So it's basically the subscriber is receiving the control on which the subscription has to happen here. So basically it's going to be the same kind of implementation each and every time you're going to have to extend. Combine as such, Apple documentation requests or at least asks the developers not to create their these functionalities on their own, because it's a little tedious, but then you have custom made solutions already available. But then let's say something like a UI kit is not readily available, but then there is a huge community around combine already which is building all of this. So I was only referencing to some of the good solutions which people are already bringing in from the combine community. So I was just referring to that to even create this and refer. So this is how even Apple documentation for combine also says that to have a publisher, combine.publisher, as well as combine.subscriber subscription to be implemented, and then you can start extending any type of anything from the regular Swift to the reactive way using this. So I have already created a tab publisher over here, which is for the touch up inside. If you want multiple, you can keep creating that, and then finally this creates you the tab publisher. So because we already have this extension right now, I can go back to add code view controller and then get rid of this add code, and then maybe point it to the combined version which we have created right now. So I'm going to go to main, and then I'm going to go to the add code, this one. I think I have multiple references. This is outlet. I'm gonna keep touch up inside in this ones I'm getting rid of. I'm just going to have this add code button reference, outlet reference now. And let's go back. I have gotten rid of that function right now. It should not execute anymore. I'm going to go back to add codes. This function will not execute anymore. So I can always now modify this. So I'm going to do something over here. I'm just going to create an extension now to add code view controller, keeping it private. I'm going to create a private function again for setup binding. And I'm just going to get all of these guys over there, these, and this function is no more needed. We are going to use the combined way right now. So I'm gonna bring this, we already have this add code button, so I'm gonna use that now. So I have this add code button dot tab publisher is available now. So I can already say so one of the things which will be again needed, I'm just gonna grab something. I can't really be doing much a map or anything right now because I need to have the latest values from these. So for that, I need some functionality similar to the RX Swift ways, where I used to call just the latest value from that. So I guess I'm more talking in terms of get with latest from. So on tap, if let's say this is my tap publish, this is where my tap is happening, and if I sync, I'm going to receive a void, and this void needs to use another signal now to propagate to the new one. For that, I don't have any ready-made functions available with combine as yet. I think this library is still maturing. The combine, it's not yet there like an RX Swift, where they had a function like the with latest from. So I referred something, and then I already have a reference to it, so I'm just going to use that directly. There is an extension available from with latest from. It's nothing but in this case, at least as soon as the tap has happened, I need the latest values of these signals to be available as the next signal to make progress. So for that, whatever I'm going to use is, I'm going to include an extension. I can't discuss that with latest from much because it's a complex implementation, but the community has already given a good reference to the get latest from with latest from. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to bring directly. Maybe you can check RX documentation to understand how it works. So I'm just going to bring it within these extensions. So this is my extension to the publishers. So publishers is what I even used here for add code. Publishers to combine the latest three. So they have already created something for that, but then there is nothing created for, let's say, for getting the latest values out of these three. That is not available. At least that is something from one signal, one subscriber, if I move to another one, I will definitely need it to get the latest values to proceed. Otherwise, whatever is going to happen is, if I sync, I'm just going to only get this one, an empty signal, and I can't proceed any further from there because these are again observable values, and I can't map it right from within this one. It will not be a clean solution. That's the reason I'm bringing in something like with latest from. So you can maybe refer this one. It accepts multiple publishers and then it does some logic. Again, like I said, it's going to use that same logic of publisher, and even here, so implementation, if you look at it, it's more or less similar to the earlier one where I have a publisher upstream and side. So it's just looking through the publishers and trying to get the latest values. That's what is happening here. But ultimately, it is converting it again to a publisher itself. That's what I need. So just refer with latest from documentation of RX reactive programming, and then maybe you can use that. So I'm going back to my view controller, and I'm going to include that feature now over here. I'm just going to say with latest from. So it's asking for a publisher, and my publisher is nothing but this combined publisher. So it's going to give me the latest value from. As soon as the tap happens, I'm going to receive the latest values from these three signals with these three publishers coming through this. So that's what I'll be combining. And then again, I can get rid of this because with latest from is again giving me this combined value itself. Then it just continues from wherever I was. So if you can see now, I don't have any events coming from let's say they add the function that we were having, the IB action is removed. Instead, we are relying on this tap publisher which we created right now. This tap publisher, it's again an event triggered as soon as they touch up inside triggers. It's going to send an event to us through this, and whoever is subscribed to, in this case the add view controller is subscribed to this change. So we will start receiving that tap event, and then whatever we are doing is that we are listening to the latest values which is available within these three publishers, and then we are combining it, and then we are continuing with that flow. So you can see it's all changed right now. The values received on tap is happening. It's checked for the three values within this. If anything is nil, it's not going to propagate. If not, then it's going to propagate and create a code model, and then that goes for save. That's the whole logic which is happening now. So I am going to maybe run this, and let's check with whether these things are working or not. Each step maybe. So it should come at each of these steps. Okay, it's already. Let's go. So this is my code. What combine extension for UI control. I do an add. Nothing is happening because the signals are not come through yet. Even this, I guess this is because of this. So category is selected. I think now it should behave properly. Okay, something is okay. That's because we are not called the setup binding yet. So setup binding. I guess now those breakpoints are still not available for some reason. Okay, that's funny. That's fine. Let's run it once more. I guess it should work now. So wish, what's your code add? Nothing happened. Let's see once more. Humor, add. Yep. So now it's working. So you can see it's all changed right now. It's receiving author, wish, content, what's your code categories, also the humor, legend. Everything is coming back. Now it's transforming and going for a save. It should also be receiving that model right now. You can see it's created. Everything is coming back. And it's also carrying a category model for save, and it should save now, and it should come to the success hopefully. Yep. So save is also done. So that's pretty much working. We have made it end to end. Now UIKit is working with so you can also see getting reflected here. This is something I will work maybe later, but then the overall idea is this, that we have already modified it to this level right now, but there are still I might just maybe look at the other one which still needs maybe moving this part as well. Like I have a UIBarButtonItem right now which also needs an extension. Let's also create that, and then maybe we can wind up this, because that's the other part which is pending right now. UIBarButtonItem plus combined version. So it's more or less going to be the same. So it's going to be UIKit and import combine, and then we are going to have, anyway we already have the combine compatible and everything. So all that we needed to is to do an extension of UIBarButtonItem plus, I think one more thing is the extension of combine compatible UIBarButtonItem. Okay, it's going to be the other way. UIBarButtonItem implements combine compatible, so that it knows that UIBarButtonItem is conforming to that. That's the first part. And let's create the other part class. Again, it's going to be pretty simple now because we know what we were doing. Class, we are creating a subscription, and then we are calling that subscription type. Subscriber type is going to be our UI bar button. No, subscriber type is going to be our subscriber itself, which is coming from combine. Also, the control is going to be our control. Maybe I'm just referring for quicker pace. And our control, or at least control, is going to be UI bar button item. I think that should be called input. And then let's implement subscriber. It should be combine.subscription. Where we need to specify the subscriber type dot input should be the input itself, which we have defined, which is the UI bar button item. Now this is going to ask for us to implement some bit of code. Again, it's the same, like you see, it's a cancel and all that request. So request so I'm just gonna grab everything faster. Subscriber type, we need to have the similar. We need to have a subscriber type, input, and request. Again, we are going to keep the demand because it's going to be unlimited, and cancel has to be the subscriber should be set to nil. Again, the same kind of things we implement. And then it needs an initializer now. So with an init, we'll have the other parameters passed. One thing is the subscriber type, and we also need the input. And the other thing which we did not do here is passing the event, but because event is going to be handled by the input itself, so we'll just keep that subscriber is equal to subscriber. I'll show you what the difference is here. It's only one kind of event, which is anyway handled by the UI bar button itself. Self.input is going to be input, and then self.target. I think input.target, input in this case is UI bar button. Target is going to be self, which is the UI bar button itself, and then self.input dot we have the action. So this is what I was talking about. Event is going to be only one in the case of the UI bar button. That's a reason it's we are not passing it from outside. Then we just need to create a function, event handler. So you can see it's almost very similar to the earlier UIControl implementation. And we are just going to say subscriber dot receive the input. I think it's going to be subscriber dot receive self dot input, and it's going to ask for a return. Just gonna say that's it. So this, and then pass the event handler as well. So this is pretty much the subscription part. Now comes the because we are not extending it anymore, I can keep it final. Then let's create the publisher part now. So I need to have a publisher. Output is going to be the UI bar button item, because input and output has to be the same, and combine dot publisher is what we are implementing. Again, it's going to ask similar kinds of things. The type alias is output is going to be output, failure is going to be never. So those two things are taken care, and now we need an init. and init is going to have an output. We don't need an event because event is just one in this case. And self dot output, and type LA. Okay, we need private let output to be created. And it needs to have that receive function, which is the critical part of the subscription to work. And let's implement that let subscription which we had created. Subscription subscriber and input. So we know that the subscriber is here and input is going to be input. Let's where is the input? Okay, for subscriber it's going to be the output, which is the input here. So we just need to say output, and we just need to call now the subscriber dot receive function and pass the subscription. I guess that's pretty much what we need. That's also done. So now let's create an extension. It's very simple. I'm just gonna do that. I'm just gonna grab those two code pieces right away, and this is my combined compatible. Again, we are saying it's for UIBarButtonItem, and I am creating a publisher. Similar thing where I'm creating a publisher for UIBarButton. It returns a UIBarButtonItem, but then again I'm only interested in maybe the void signal which is coming through. So I'm just creating a publisher object, passing the self instant, mapping it, and then sending a void signal again. So UIBarButton combine is also done. So this is what I'm going to replace now in the cases where we were using it. So first thing, let me move this into maybe I'll just modify this itself, var right bar button, and just gonna make it private lazy var. So I'm just creating it as a variable right now and just gonna return that, and it's going to be a UIBarButtonItem. So it's pretty simple creation. It's already happening here. I'm just gonna return right button, and I just need to move this outside. Yeah, somewhere closer to the controls. And then my right bar button is available. I just need to get rid of this and then maybe move the binding. Thus we already have the right button available, and we have a code here on show. Add code is what is going to get called. So I can even get rid of the function. So we created a private so maybe I can move this to that side. Create the function over here. It's a private function now. I can say show add code or something. I think it's not going to give me an error because okay, it's giving something now. Let me check. Okay, it's okay, its target is here, so we don't need any of this. I can say target we are already setting inside, so I can just get rid of this and keep it as nil. I think that should solve that one. So this is anyway happening within the UIBarButtonItem extension, which we did already, where we are setting the target as well as the action within that control. So right button need not do all of that now. So there is no error now. All that now we need to do is to do a binding for right bar button dot we have the tab publisher available. I'm going to call a sync, and it's going to be an it's going to be a void signal which I'm going to receive. So as soon as I receive that, I can just call this function. So I'm going to do a weak self, and then I'm saying self dot show add quote function call happens, but still we are not done. We need to still store the cancellables. That's it. So even this should work now. So we have a couple of things moved to so this is what we moved right now. It should also work. See, it's coming over here itself. So we can even maybe look at that tab. It comes to this now. So it's even this is working. So that's another optimization. We already moved this to combine. I think we still have some bit left where I think still we are relying on closures to get some values. I guess let's also move that. So we have a closure here on category selected. I think we can even move that to the combined version. I'm just going to directly move that to the combined version. So whatever it needs to receive is a category model. So I'm just going to make it the publisher, pass-through publisher, pass-through subject, pass a category model. I think this will be a simple optimization to work with. Pass-through model, pass-through subject. This instantiation is not going to create us an instance of that, but then you can, let's see what is the change happening. So I have a couple of errors. So it's happening here. So all that I need to now do is to call this send function. Input is going to be the same. So not major changes, but then subscription is changing now. So you can see it was working based on this. Instead of that, now I can, I don't need to keep this. So this is on choose category. Again, there are some optimization stills which we can do. Inside this, we are creating the instances. On choose category was nothing but this is what on choose categories. There is a button tab over here which we can now modify, and then again chain everything looks like. So on choose category is some function which we can modify. Let's go there. So if I go here, if I can get rid of this on choose category, and maybe I can just keep this add choose category buttons reference. So let's go back. So whatever I'm going to do is, this is gone now. So I have a binding which is available. I'm going to bring that choose category button dot tab publisher. So this will give me function. I can sync. So this is actually taking me to the new screen. So I can just maybe do a sync over here itself. I'm going to move this code there. Choose category is gone for me. And I'm bringing that bit over here. So I have a view controller created, and so I don't think I need to create that view controller every now and then. So I can even move this whole instantiation code outside. So maybe let me just bring this inside outside. So all that we need to do is to push this, and that's the only thing which we need. So that's what is going to happen on tab. So I can maybe say navigation controller. Sync is happening. Then I do a store. is that an error? Okay, I think this is the reason. Categories view controller. Okay, it's within this. So maybe I'll have to create that publisher within this. As soon as this is created, I can do that. So if this view controller is existing, I create a publisher for this to push the view controller, the categories view controller. Also, because I have modified this on category selected to a combined version right now, I can even modify this and then maybe create it as a sync, or I can do it even better. Because it is more or less setting to this, I can just say assign to I guess this should work hopefully. So I just need to say value, and the object is going to be selected category. I hope this works. And I don't need to do anything more than that, I guess. Selected category is not in scope. Self.selected category. I don't think I can do an assign on this. Maybe let's do let's do a sync itself, and then maybe receive that value. So I'm just getting a category model. So I'm just gonna do weak self in self dot category selected category dot send. I'll just pass $0 there, so that should work now. And then let me do this to a store cancellables. Yep, that should work. So this 2-bit is also taken care, where we are pushing and popping these values, but then wherever the subscription was happening, I think it should be fine. Selected category is set, and what is happening, this piece of code was commented out, so I guess I can also bring that part here. Okay, so I can even subscribe to this event right now, or whenever this is changing, I can also update to event. I can do a handle event whenever a signal is received, let's say. So I can say whenever an output is received. So that's a model being received over here. I can handle it on this receive event itself. So I can move this bit wherever the did set was happening. I can move that inside this handle events. So I just maybe like to call weak self. So this is nothing but this model.name and the model.legend, which is received on every value received over here. And I can say self that should solve it. So this is where handle events is nothing but this is where you get the values whenever you are syncing some value, but also you can listen to the values through handle events, where you can if you need to, let's say, log something or update some state or something, you can handle it using this. So that's one place you can listen to. So this was more like the did set itself, but the combined way. So that's what I'm using here, handle events, for updating these things, like chosen color, tint color, and all that is changing here. So let's look at that now. Where do we, if there is lots of optimization we have already done, I don't know what all things have broken right now. So this bit is what we were modifying right now live. Okay, so this is happening. So it is actually coming here and updating for sure. So let's keep a breakpoint. Live movie, see, it's coming over here and updating it. So this is where that update is happening right now. Also, it's setting the value over here. I was trying to do an assign, that did not work. I need to investigate further. It would have been fun because it's receiving the same kind of object over here, but then assign was not working for some reason, and that's interesting. And there are so many tests. I don't know, there's something is duplicate is happening for sure somewhere. But then pretty much I think what is still now, what is left now, we move the add code button, and even categories choosing is also done. We modified this to a current value subject. Again, this is selected category. That also we moved. I think only a little bit is now left where things are still in the old way, but then at least for this even this pass-through subject for this one is used on category selected, that is also used. We have a right button, we can again that can be easily moved to the UI bar button delegate part, and again move this. Pretty much everything I have tried covering it, which I have moved to the reactive side, the combined side, even the UI kit part, let's say. The text views, all the, at least if you come to codes view controller, maybe you have a cancel or something which is still there, but you can again use that. I think you were in add code view controller, we have a cancel call. This one again you can move to easily move to, because you just need to get an outlet of that cancel and then use that tap function, and then maybe directly call this cancel event to pop the view controller. That again you can do the combined way. So basically the combined makes it a little more cleaner like this. So you can see it's all line by line declarative. It clearly gives you a meaning of what is happening. Let's say in this case you have an add code button tab happening with on which you are bringing the values of the text fields, text fields and everything, and using that signal now to create an object out of it, like a code model, and then using that to create a saved request. This is one simple case, but let's say if you had an API call to happen, then you would have done that, and that would have given you a response. So one more flat map would have happened here, and then again a flat map to receive that response from the server. Let's say if there is a failure, you need to handle that on handle events or something. And then if it's a success, then you're again saving it to the database. This step will happen again, and then again syncing it can again give you a success or a failure value. And if you needed to update your data, the view controller or a view element, then you could have easily done it over here itself. So that's all is so declarative. It's very easy to read through and then understand what is happening. It might feel a little difficult initially if you are new to declarative programming, but this is how it works. We can easily move everything, even in UI kit with a storyboard, to a combined version. You don't need to really migrate to a Swift UI version to really work with it, but Swift UI as such is totally different paradigm shift, the way we do the UI layout and everything. So that's something you can onboard pretty soon enough. But then if you are, let's say, already building something on storyboard based, UI kit based things, then even now there is enough opportunity to maybe move to combine or something. That's what even I am trying to do here. So I guess this was helpful and informative. And if you enjoyed this, maybe leave your comments or feedback so that I can also understand. I'm still learning a lot of things about Combine because I'm always trying to compare it with the RX Swift and then understanding those two worlds. But it's more or less the same. And keep subscribed. Share this video if you liked it, and hopefully I'll be back with some more stuff, let's say on the other part of things where I still had to implement some of the features where I had to do a search and everything, which I can again bring to the combined world to and show you how that can happen, a search and a filter and everything for this codes. So that's pretty much coming soon. Otherwise that's pretty much from my side. So see you see you next week with a new episode. Until then, it's bye from me.